This next interview is being sponsored by the following. The BOF Movement, which is a nonprofit organization based in Green Bay, Wisconsin and Chicago, founded by my brother Frankie O'Vera, who had passed away from a very rare and aggressive form of cancer back in 2010. His mission for the BOF is to help families and kids who are dealing with cancer by giving them a chance to either express themselves creatively by supplying them art supplies or to be able to take them out to go on their last vacation and spend time with their family. Now, to find out more about the BOF movement and what they've been doing over these last couple years, you can check out their website, which is www.bofmovement.com. You can also follow them on Facebook and like what's going on there. Simply Spoken is created by Anthony Oliva, who's a circus artist and jeweler. I've known Anthony now for the past 5 years, but had no idea of his amazing abilities with metal. Anthony basically takes bike parts and upcycles them to either make jewelry, whether it's bracelets, earrings, necklaces, or even ornaments for Christmas trees. Currently, I'm wearing one of Anthony's bracelets, which is called the Standard. Guys, I would highly recommend this. It's very sleek and stylish, and it looks great on the wrist. Ladies, you can check out some of his jewelry and necklaces at his Etsy account, which is etsy.com/shop/simplyspokenak. And for those of you who are interested in finding more information about Anthony, you can check out his stuff on Facebook. My next sponsor is Symmetry, aka Christian Stevenson, who's a Midwest electronical dance music artist. I met Christian in 2014 during a production of a musical, and since then we've been able to create a music video for his album called Glass, which was a big hit. And what I love so much about Christian's work is his ability to fuse his training, his formal training as a classical musician, as well as electronical dance instruments, and blending these really, really nice mixes, whether they're from chilled out music to atmosphere to dubstep to house to just, everything and anything. This guy's pretty amazing. I use his music for my intros and extras of my videos, as well as this particular interview. I highly recommend him as an up-and-coming artist. Best way to find out more what Christian's doing with his music is you can find him on Facebook at Christian F. Stevenson, or you can check out his SoundCloud account at SoundCloud/Symmetry. It's spelled SYMMTRY. Again, I would highly recommend Christian for his work, his talent, and this kid is amazing. Hello everyone, this is Edwin O'Vera from Edwin O'Vera Dance and Creative Services, and I'm here right now having an interview with a gentleman named Anthony LoCascio, who is an amazing tap dancer and one of the Americans who was on the show touring and also in the States and abroad for Tap Dog. Now, I have never heard of this show in my life, but after doing research, I realized that, this show has been going on for almost 20 years. And it's amazing what they have done with tapping and then also with props. And as being a former Pilates dancer, a lot of the stuff that I did in the company was uses of props and utilizing, modern dance into prop-based vocabulary. So it was amazing to see what they were doing. And this happened back in 94, 97.
Yeah, the show started around 95. I joined in the summer of 97, and I was the first American to get a standing role in the show from the original guy who created the role by the name of Drew Kaluski, which would wind up being the enforcer. And it was cool because not only props, but we really used the set. The set was an intricate part of the show. Anyway, yeah, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's perfect. Well, it's interesting because just defining, the way that the set was designed, there was so many layers to it. I mean, when you guys are bringing out those staircases, the staircase itself, just featuring the feet, dancing on those beams. And here's a question for you, and this is kind of like just a little bit on the side is, did you go and perform any of the stuff for the Olympic ceremonies in 2000?
You know what? I didn't, and if I had a means to get to Australia, I had actually asked Dean about that. He said, "Sure, mate. Of course I'd have you in the show." But I couldn't get to Australia. But I didn't have that particular opportunity. But I'm really proud of the guys that are in the cast now. It's a really strong cast. Rumor has it they want to bring him back to the States, and that would be phenomenal because I'd love to see these guys perform here in America again.
Yeah, oh man, that'd be wonderful. The other thing that Anthony has been doing over these last couple years is, one, you have a company called Tap Life, and
yep.
how many members?
Right now we have I usually dance with 6 people at a time, but there's about 8 company members. And we do open rehearsals and stuff, so we're always looking for more people that are excited about the kind of energy and message that the material that we're creating, offers to society.
And the other thing is that you also are one of the co-founders of the Global Dance Collaborative, which is a Facebook group, but it's more than just a Facebook group. You're literally giving the spotlight to so many different performers, teachers, people who are leading like conventions and dance, or people who are doing amazing dance videos. You're like helping them, giving them a stage or a platform for them to interact and give comments to each other to like help support the community of the performing arts, which is a wonderful thing.
It was really important that we created a culture before we grew the community. So we have a couple of hundred people in there. Now that we're starting to really get to see that the culture is working in the group, we'd like to try to figure out ways to bring more people into the Global Dance Collaborative by, but we just want people that understand it's a positive thing. It's a community thing. It's a legacy thing. Whatever we create can stay there forever. And if it's valuable and of good quality and of good nature, it could help a lot of people for a very long time.
So Anthony, here goes with the first question, which is, when did you start noticing, you or maybe your parents, that at an early age, you had the spark of being a mover?
I don't remember how old I was. I had to be very young. I was probably still in a diaper. And I was told, my father taught me how to clap to music. There was always a lot of music in my house. Playing it, not musicians, but playing it. So I was able to clap on the right beat, and then they brought me to a dance class, and I just hated it, apparently. But then years later, my cousin Jen, who I was very close with, Jen Notaro, she brought me to her dance studio called Joe Stanford Dance Studio right here in my neighborhood in Howard Beach, Queens, where I grew up. And I loved it. It was great. I got up and started dancing, and then I was about 9 when I started tapping, and it was really going to Joe Stanford Dance. If I didn't go to Joe Stanford Dance Studio, I don't know if the connection would have ever been made between me and dance.
And then, how sometimes there's that transition before people go right into dance. Was there any other type of movement that you were doing? Like, did you do any sports growing up in high school, like football, track? It's interesting how it applies.
High school would have been way, way later in where how I transformed my life through dance by that point. Pardon me. It was always dance when I was a kid. I spent all my hours in dance class. And I tried some sports, but I just stand in the outfield. I didn't want to wait for someone to throw me a ball or catch a ball every once in a long while. I wanted to be active and hanging out with people in more of a community setting, I guess. And so I was more attracted to that. So the sports really didn't even come into that much. It was more always about the dance.
And then just going into like the second question, which has to do with, if you're looking at the style of tap, what was one particular style or person who influenced you the most when you were growing up, other than your teacher that you just mentioned? Or maybe it could be your teacher.
Well, that's exactly it. I get that question. I was talking about, sometimes it's really just your teacher more than anything else. And I wouldn't have maybe found Gene Kelly or Gregory Hines if I didn't have my teacher bringing those people up in class and teaching me stuff about them or mentioning them for me to find them. So really, it was my dance teacher who was the most influential. And for many years, before I was old enough to grasp other things or other forms of entertainment, I really miss variety shows. And, even prior to Star Search, I miss like the Muppet Show and Sonny and Cher and the Jacksons and, Donnie and Marie and Carol Burnett. And those were always so important. Those things as a whole, I think, are more important to mention and are more influential than pinpointing an actual famous entity that people might already know. I'm more about what's the journey or how did I find that? I've been thinking about that more and more as people ask me the question you just asked me more and more often. So I hope that actually offers a little bit more insight and ways for people to kind of not find one person they've already been told about, but maybe find their own person that they would never expect to find because they went down a journey or trusted a process rather than believing what somebody else already answered or said to a question.
That's perfect. One of the gentlemen that I was going to interview is my former teacher from the UW Milwaukee school system. Now he's in Thailand with his partner, and basically this gentleman, his name is Zhao Long. He was in the first modern ballet company in modern/ballet company in Beijing. And what's so important about Long as a mentor is that the ability of him finding raw talent, in every single student, and then pushing them beyond their boundaries. And I would say at least under this gentleman's belt, he's had at least 25 students over the last 20 years go and become, professional principal performers, and whether it's in ballet. But it's interesting, he's not a name that you would hear on a regular basis, but he's really important to me, just like your teacher is to you. Sometimes the local hometown hero helps you learn so many more ideas about performance and dance, and then going to take a class at a bigger facility or studio or something.
Yeah, that's so important, and it's one of those things that I'm concerned that's getting lost sometimes. I feel like with so many students becoming teachers so quick, and then opening up their own studio or having some kind of commercial fame, and then going to teaching right away instead of learning more about performing, and having there's no substitute for time. And the reason why our teachers were so important to us was because the time they spent, becoming who they were becoming before they became a teacher. So, these people that we talk about, like Joe Stanford and your teacher, it's important we say their names and talk about them so that maybe our students will have a little bit more understanding of how important it is to spend the majority of their time learning before they try to jump into a position of teaching others.
That's really important because as we both know, we live in a culture now where, because of technology, which is a blessing, but at the same time, the curse is that people have instant access and gratification to whether it's, videos or information. And sometimes people think they can just jump in and do, for example, what I do is partnering, is advanced partnering, and whether you're doing a complicated, just, throwing it back in your court, doing a complicated routine of steps for tapping, it doesn't happen sometimes in less than 2 days. It might take, it might take a month because you first learn it, then your muscle memory has to, embed it, and then you got to find a way to make it more efficient, and then make it louder. It's like
effortless. You have to make it effortless.
Effortless and then presentable, and so people have to be conscious that things do take time, and you can't get the quick fix all the time. Bringing it just a little bit closer, have you ever had an injury, and if so, how did you overcome that injury?
That's another one of those questions that comes up quite often, and I've been thinking outside the box about it a lot more. When that question comes up, I've never overcome my most serious injury, which is my back. I injured my back severely quite a few times. Not muscle injury, not severely broken. I know, let's put that in perspective, but some severe muscle tears and injuries, and I never healed properly. I never took the time to heal properly. I always wanted to be back on stage so quick, and there's always that the show must go on, and, everybody's replaceable. So you think about all those things in parallel with each other, and you kind of rush yourself back on stage. And when the injury question comes up now, I've never overcome my injury. My back goes out on me once every couple of months. People that know me on social media know I even talk about it sometimes. And one of the reasons is because I want dancers now to, if you get an injury and you got to take time to heal, take time to heal. The show that you're in, that show might close. It probably will close. No shows run forever. Not every show is fantastic. If you know that reference, that's great. But your body, you have to work with your body is the only instrument. You get that one instrument you have to work with as a dancer forever. So you need to be really good to it. The nutrition's important. What you eat, knowing what's good for your body and what's not good for your body. Doing some yoga when you're not dancing. Besides stretching, it's like that question needs to be a more deep thought. Just more focus. There needs to be more focus into what things caused that question in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
If we're talking about injuries, well, let's go a step back further. Like that new movie that's coming out, the concussion movie that just came out for the NFL. I think it's great. I couldn't wait to see Star Wars. I also can't wait to see that movie because I want to know more about that too. The stuff that people don't talk about that we should know more about.
Exactly. I know that when I was dancing professionally, one of the things that I had to do to maintain myself was constant yoga, lots of yoga, just because from constant, pressing, pushing people and getting my muscles to become super dense, I had to find ways to make it supple and flexible, especially in the shoulder girdles and hips. I mean, my hips got really tight quite a bit,
I bet.
So interesting. What's something that inspires you right now? What's capturing your attention?
You know what? It's the social media, man. Everybody talks about how tap is dying, or we don't see jazz anymore. It's all these different things. And you know what? The social media has me so excited. And the last year of my life, of just meeting tap dancers. I've met more tap dancers in the last year than I've met in maybe my whole life. For some reason, it's just been massive. Like, you got Operation Tap out there. Deli and Anthony just did the text video. There's all these videos. Sarah Reich is killing it with Postmodern Jukebox on the social media. Belinda Sullivan's on the social. I've seen her videos on social media. I try to share them. I like that we're sharing each other's things. Look at Syncopated Ladies and Apartment 33 and Chloe and Maud and Justin Miles with, he's got the Jam Project and Michelle Durant's on Colbert. That's insane. Working on the same faculty with like the St. Louis Tap Festival, the Big Apple Tap Festival, all these festivals. Like, I got to work with Jason Samuel Smith. I'm taking classes in New York every once in a while from Ray Hesselink because he's fantastic and does different weight changes than me. And I got to meet Derek Grant this year, and I talked to Aaron Tolson, and it's just tap is killing it right now. And the combination of us getting excited and social media, because we have some young tap dancers, and I mean, look at Orange County Tap Experience, and there's just so many cool things going on. And now tap and social media are finally coming together. So I think tap now has a new outlet, and people are using it in a way that just hasn't been really used before. I mean, look, we're talking on a podcast. We're talking about dance like this. I mean, I have the Sounds of a Tap Life show I just did. We did some Periscope with it. We're Periscoping now. Like, I'm Periscoping some of our conversation because I want people to know that this interview is going to be out, and they can check us out and what we're talking about. And it's the combination of all these things right now that has me excited. It's not one thing; it's the combination.
It's a combination of everything. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So here's, I want to give you, man, I really enjoyed the video that you posted of blurred lines and the editing, and also adding the elements of like the social media text. Brilliant. It was like, oh man, the more of your videos I kept watching, doing my research on this, I was like, oh god, this guy's amazing. And it's I guess it's the excitement that you have in tap, which is and you see it in artists who are at the peak of their profession. I'm not saying peak as in blatant. I'm just saying that, like, when somebody knows their profession inside and out, you see how it resonates, whether it's a video or an audio or an actual performance of them. And that's something to be said, and it's really wonderful watching your stuff, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Can you inform some people of your current collaborations that you have going on?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I love to work with somebody by the name of Frank Persico. He recently is finishing up an album called Greetings and Salutations from Ozone Park, and it's going to be on iTunes in a couple of months. If you want to check out some of his older stuff, he's got Frank Persico live from Rockwood Music Hall in New York City, which was great. And at the end of that particular album, there's a recording of Lucky to Be Alive. Him and I collaborate a lot together. He's one of my favorite people to collaborate with. And in the Sounds of a Tap Life show, I also got to bring back an old collaboration, which I'm going to, I think bring back in some other ways. But some of his new music is with Jason Udolph, who's got an album on iTunes too, who was the first American hired for Tap Dogs, and he was a musician. He's fantastic. His album is called Tragic Hero. I think that's on CD Baby, maybe on iTunes too. But I love collaborating with independent artists because I get to, I don't know, I feel like when people see my tap stuff a lot of times, if it's music that they're not very familiar with, it also helps. They don't have a predisposed thought process or like if it's a song that they already know, they've had an experience with it already, or it's Adele and they have this emotional attachment already, or so I try to, I love using artists that aren't heard that often. Luminaries is another great one, and Goddess Alchemy Project, and even people that you know but you don't think about as often as maybe you should, like Jason Mraz. But it's the Frank Persico stuff that's exciting because I get to go in the studio with him a lot, so I get to have an influence on the thought process of this beautiful musician, and I could hear it in his music. So that's a lot of fun. But you can see the Lucky to Be Alive video that is on YouTube as well. Just look up Tap Life Lucky.
Perfect. We'll do so. Here's the final question, which has to do with, going forward with yourself, with your business. What's one goal that you would like to accomplish within the next, say, like 3 years or even a year?
Well, within the next year, it'd be really nice to bring sounds of a Tap Life back, but make it a little bit longer. I'd love it if it's between an hour and an hour and a half. I want to put some more stuff in there that I didn't have time to put in from, when I first started becoming a dance teacher and stuff like that. But I also want to maybe give it some other venues and try some other places besides Dixon Place and see if there is more time at Dixon Place for Sounds of a Tap Life. But in more like the 3-year thing, there's a second one. I have these apps that I've been trying to produce for a while. I lived in the Silicon Valley for about 17 years in Northern California, up in San Jose.
Wow.
By Apple, eBay, Tesla, PayPal, Netflix. It's awesome up there. So I have 2 apps that I'm in the process of doing. One is really tied into dance and, the management of a dance studio in some aspects, not managing a whole dance studio, but just trying to help dance teachers or studio owners be more efficient and get to focus more on the creativity of what they're involved in and not the, management side of what they're involved in. And then the other one has to do with more of society. It's like an ETA kind of thing. It's called Converge. You could actually go to convergetheapp.com and you can put in your email, and when it's ready, we're going to let people be beta testers who put their email in early on and become early adapters of the app. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I love, and anything that we talked about, Global Dance Collaborative, Frank, you can find Frank on Reverb Nation, any of the Tap Life stuff. Just if anyone wants to send me a private message, and we try to be very friendly and inclusive here. So if anyone has any questions about any things we spoke about, just go to my website, thetaplife.com, and just hit contact me if you get in touch with Stacy or I.
Perfect. Here's I'd like to leave people who are listening to this with one word of advice. So if there's something that you could tell people that they should be conscious of, whether it's themselves, with their business, even as a performer, what would that be?
We just did the show, and there was a couple of quotes I put in there. One from Gregory Hines, one that comes to mind with Gregory Hines, one that comes to mind with Stevie Wonder, but it's my grandfather. It has one of my favorite ones that I use so often, Grandpa Louie. He used to drive me to all my auditions when I was a kid. He says, listen to what everyone has to say, and then do whatever works best for you. And that's a very deep statement for a lot of reasons. You could listen to what everyone has to say and then put some thought into it, learn something from it. Take bits and pieces of it. Let it sit for a while. Hear what experienced people have to say and what inexperienced people have to say. And then once you process all that, then do whatever works best for you, because only you know you. And every person is their own universe. And if you could put all that thought into that one statement, it's something that's the lesson isn't important to learn. It's remembering the lesson and when to apply the lesson. That's what really matters. So listen to what everyone has to say, and then do whatever you want. Then do whatever works best for you.
That's so true. Because again, you get people who are preaching to you so much about what you should do, what you should not do, and maybe check this out. And I think it's again being a good listener and then also taking action. You're right. What works. That's a beautiful statement. I guess the last thing to follow up is the best way to people to find you on social media. You mentioned earlier about the Global Dance Collaborative and your website. Can you let people know your website, your Twitter handler, and all that stuff?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to go to my website to find everything. thetaplife.com. Now, when you're there, since as soon as you hear this interview, Sounds of a Tap Life is there. You can watch the show there. You could watch the show on a smart TV or an Apple TV by opening up your Vimeo app and looking up Sounds of, put the hashtag Tap Life. I'm on Twitter. It's My Tap Life. I'm on Periscope. It's My Tap Life. And then you could follow me on Instagram, which is just my name, Anthony LoCascio. You could follow my Tap Life company on Facebook, and you could follow my public page, Anthony LoCascio, on Facebook as well. And I think that's everything. We try to have, fun stuff out there, but we try not to overwhelm you with the social media. But we want to be reachable. People can't choose you if they don't know you're a choice. My friends always say that.
You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, my friend's always concerned he's pushing himself on people, and then after events, I hear them say, "Oh, we didn't know that you were performing." I'm like, that's exactly it. You know, use social media, let people know that you're a choice, because if they don't even know you're a choice, then they're not going to choose you. And most of the time, the people that you do connect with, it's just the universe doing its work. That's the secret. Putting your energy out there, and then whoever needs to absorb the energy will absorb it. Whoever doesn't, it'll just pass right by him, and it doesn't make a difference.
True.
But if you don't put it out there, it can't be received.
It's interesting, you know, that this last comment you're talking about, you know, letting people know that you exist. It's one thing I talked about in my book recently, which is, you know, telling people. It's another way of thinking about marketing. You know, people, when you say marketing to young artists, they're like, oh God, I don't know how to market. And I'm like, well, you talk to people all the time. You send text messages to your friends, family, loved ones about your marketing there. It's just a soft, organic way of doing it, you know. So tell people that you exist, promote it, put it online, you know, have a website, be professional about it. And I think, you know,
that's right on. I'm glad that you wrote that in your book, because that's beautiful. You have to let people know that you exist. I didn't want to interrupt you, but let's reiterate that. That's a beautiful thing. That's great.
I guess the best way if people physically get a chance to see you and work with you is, where do you teach weekly classes at?
I like to teach at regular everyday dance studios. So I teach at Tip Tap Toe in Elmont in Long Island. I teach at Dancer's Edge in New Jersey, and I teach at Garden City Dance Studio in Garden City, Long Island. And then sometimes I'll fill in at Broadway Dance Center. I travel a lot as well, so I teach a lot of top festivals, which is awesome, up in Boston, Dance United, and SoFlo and Northeast Tap Collaborative. So I bounce around a lot. I try to keep it on the website, but it's so hard to keep it on the website. That's why the social media is so important, because it's instant, and if you pay attention to it just with one eye, you'll catch what you need to catch.
Got it. And Anthony, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and being able to, tell people about your story. Answering these questions with so much. You can hear it, man. The passion, the energy in your voice, and I know that applies even when you're doing your performances, because the way you make the music with your feet is crazy.
Thank you.
The last thing I'll say is I'm going to be in the East Coast in August of this coming year, and so I love to find a way to make my way up to New York, because my brother lives there. It'd be nice to meet you in person, physically, and maybe we can do another interview.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. If I'm in town, I'd love to see you, and if we ever are in the same city at the same time, doesn't always have to be in New York. Wherever we're at, we could always hook up and have a cup of coffee or do whatever you want to do.
All right, man. Thank you, Anthony. Be well, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Be well.
Don't forget to sign up for my monthly newsletter by going to my website, www.edwinovera.com. As a bonus, you're going to receive the first chapter of my ebook, which is entitled 5 Easy Steps to Becoming a Successful Freelance Dancer. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, hey, I'm not a dancer, but I bet you know 1 or 2 people who are. And you can help spread the word over to them about this book and this amazing opportunity by sharing my information. Also, make sure to leave comments down below, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and even spread the word onto others by sharing this link on your social media accounts. Last thing I'll say is, if you have any questions about this interview or anything else that pertains to being a freelance artist, let me know, and I'd love to respond back to you with my answers.